Today's passage is Luke chapter 10, verses 1 to 16. The mission of the 70 connects Jesus to Moses, who appointed 70 elders to assist him in leading the people and who shared in the Spirit of God, which was bestowed on Moses. It also connects to the Old Testament belief that there were 70 nations in the world. Luke is foreshadowing the preaching of the gospel to all nations, which really began at Pentecost. As Luke wrote, the mission was going on to both Jews and Gentiles. He saw it at first hand with Paul, and he was himself, we think, a Gentile, a non-Jew. There was much opposition to the gospel in those early days. So the phrase, lambs in the midst of wolves, would have rung very true to those first evangelists. Their mission would have seemed fairly hopeless on a human level. Their numbers were so small, their influence so trifling, they were so vulnerable. Luke's account makes this a plus point. Jesus instructs the 70 to go with no provision for security, no fallback position, to entrust themselves completely to the charity and compassion of those they meet. In that way, anything good that came out of it can be attributed only to God, to the work of the Holy Spirit. As Jesus accepted the vulnerability and weakness of the cross, so his followers must do. And he warns that they may be surprised about where their message is received and where it is rejected. Certainly Paul's experience was that the synagogues generally threw him out, and he then turned to the Gentile population of the area he was in and found at least some of them more receptive. When the 70 return, this is beyond today's passage, Jesus tells them, "I saw Satan fall from heaven." He sensed a reflection, a correspondence between what was happening in heaven and on earth. Those little groups of Christians, talking to a few people here and there, looked at from an earthly point of view, were not much earthly use. But from another perspective, something earth-shattering was taking place. To perceive what is really going on within what takes place, we need those eyes of faith. The tiny seeds sown then did grow, and even today we see fruit from them. Who can say what the long-term outcomes will be of our own endeavours, our own witness to the gospel? If we feel helpless or outnumbered, we can hardly be more so than they were. And all our efforts today to build up our communities and a culture of neighbourly kindness, those too may bear long-term fruit if we persist. The Lord sent the 70 to every place where he intended to go himself. He comes with us.